guys, here I'm back teaching you how to do a basic face frame. Just like anything else we teach you guys, there are a million ways to do something. This is just a technique that you can get under your belt so that you can grow from, just like everything else that we show you here, okay? But as you can see, I have my my mannequin sectioned into 4 quadrants with the 2 front quadrants down, okay? Depending on the face frame and the length of hair is going to depend on how far you go back. We teach you to stop in the front 2 quadrants and not to go back past that. But there may be circumstances later on when you do have somebody, you might go a little further back depending on how long that hair is and what they're asking for. Okay, face framing comes in a million different forms, lengths, shapes, connected, disconnected. Again, this is just the basic face frame technique that you can get under your belt and grow from. So I have a triangle here in the front and I've used my comb to measure. It's about 3 inches wide and then 2 inches tall, roughly on both sides, okay? And this is just to get you started and used to using your over direction, which is what we're gonna be using in this haircut a lot, is our over direction. Again, we wanna make sure that our mannequin is 100% wet when we're cutting. If we're cutting somebody's face, in somebody's face, we never wanna spray their face. We wanna just kind of spray the hair as gently as we can, remembering not to spray their face. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna section this triangle that I have in front of me into 3s. One of the biggest rules that you want to remember when you start cutting your triangle is not to cut it so wide, to cut your guide so wide, and I'll talk about that more in a second. Another thing that you want to keep in mind is when somebody's hair, if you don't know where, like they're like, I don't know how I want my face frame and I don't know how short I can go. Well, if you take this length back here in the back and you wrap it around the head, nobody's really going to ever ask for this, but that's as short as we can take your face frame without it looking like a mullet, which actually would probably still look like a mullet. But also you can use, and that's for people who have really long hair, you can also use the 1/3 rule. So if I break this section into 3s, I can't go any shorter than that if I still want to keep a very conservative face frame. Okay, so again, if I break it into 3, so if I broke it into 3 sections, I can't go any shorter than here if it's broken into 3s, okay? And that's to keep a conservative look on someone. Now, when you get into like curtain bangs and things like that, that's different. We'll have to show you on a case-by-case basis. All right, so I'm gonna take about a 1/2 inch section, maybe a little smaller from the center of my triangle. And I'm gonna take these pieces from that triangle and I'm just gonna loop them around my clips. I'm gonna go ahead and use that 1/3 rule on her. Again, if I were to break this up into 3, so there's 1, 2, 3, I cannot go any shorter than just below her chin. And that's where I'm gonna take her for the sake of the video so that we can see very, very clearly what's happening. I'm gonna bring this down. And you can either bring it slightly elevated to you at about a 45 degree, you could bring it straight down, either one is fine. We just don't want you bringing it straight out like this. So I'm gonna go ahead and bring it down at about 45 degrees and I'm gonna cut that 1/3 roll off, boom. Now this is my guide for my entire face frame, okay? There's a little hair that got away from me in there. Okay, so that is my guide for my whole face frame. I'm gonna go ahead and start on her left side, which is my right side because I'm right-handed. Again, the opposite applies if you're left-handed. If you're left-handed, you would be started on her right side, your left, okay? I'm gonna go ahead and take this hair. I'm gonna comb it all together. And these sections, the lines that I have created at my triangle are really important with how I hold my fingers. This is going to tell me exactly how angled my finger needs to be. So I'm gonna give you an example. If I took this hair and I come straight down with it, and then I over direct it to where I'm supposed to cut, which is to the other cheek, to the opposite side cheekbone, which we're gonna do in a second. But my fingers are not angled. My face frame is going to be very blunt, okay? So the more that I angle my fingers, or the more that I mimic this line right here on my triangle, the better. So I'm gonna stand in the middle. I'm gonna take this section with the fine teeth of my comb, and I want to mimic what my triangle line says, okay? As angled as I can get that, because that's gonna make it look the best. I'm gonna chase my comb all the way to the opposite cheekbone, and I find my guide, there it is, and I would cut to it. Okay, I'm gonna do that one more time. Again, chase my fine teeth of my comb, making sure that my fingers mimic that line, okay? If my fingers don't mimic that line, it's not gonna look good. It has to be angled. I come all the way to the opposite side of the face, find my guide, and that's what I cut to. Again, very angled fingers. Okay, there's my first section of my face frame. You see how that's nice and angled and comes down like really, really sharp? That's what you want. You don't want it to be blunt, because then we're starting to go into, actually cutting into the perimeter of the hair when we want to just skim the outside of it, okay? So I'm gonna take down my next subsection here. I'm gonna go ahead and wet this hair down. And I'm probably gonna only have like maybe 3-4 subsections, if that. I wanna make sure that I keep with that same angle as I go back, okay? As closely as I can, okay? So here's my triangle line. I'm gonna comb that hair in the direction I wanna go using the wide teeth of my comb, and I'm gonna come in about 1 inch to 1/2 inch, and I wanna be as parallel to that line as I can be, okay? So you can clip the rest of this hair away if you need to, okay? Now with the fine teeth of my comb, I'm gonna comb all of this hair together, still making sure that I have control of this hair with the fine teeth, very important, and that I can see my guide down here, and I can see it, it's right there. Okay, so I'm gonna comb this hair over again. Now, I may not be able to control all this hair at the same time, and that's fine. If that's the case, then I can split it. I can take it, either split it in half or split some hair down, whatever's more comfortable for you. But the biggest thing is that I make sure that my fingers, now I have a guide here and I have a guide here to tell me what my fingers need to do. I'm gonna bring that over with the fine teeth of my comb to the opposite side of the cheekbone. There's my angle right there. If I can't see that guide, I need to take smaller subsections, okay? Very important. So I'm gonna do that one more time. Fine teeth of my comb, bringing it all the way over, making sure I can see my guide, and I can. And now I'm gonna cut to it, just like that. Again, that angle being sharp is so, so important. I'm gonna pick up the rest of this hair that I let drop, and I'm gonna bring it over with the rest. I'm just showing you that you can pick it up in sections. You don't have to pick it up at the same all together. Again, making sure my angle's sharp. There's my guide, cut to it, okay? We're at a slight 45-degree angle, not a whole lot, maybe 35 if you really wanna get technical. I'm gonna go ahead and take this last subsection because I don't really have a whole lot there, and I already know that there's not gonna be a lot to cut. If you needed to section that, you would just take it and section it like so, and then clip that away, continue with the process, okay? What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and pull this down. I'll wet it just a little bit more, because again, I wanna make sure that that hair stays nice and wet while I'm cutting. I don't want anything to dry. And I'm going to go ahead and disperse all of this hair together. Make sure that I comb it all together, because eventually I'm gonna bring it over. I'm gonna split it in half just so I have what I can control at a time. Fine teeth of my comb, fine teeth of my comb. I'm gonna come in, comb it over to the opposite side. And now here's where it gets kind of technical because I don't have a whole lot to cut. Here's what I have to cut. My guide is very strong here. I don't wanna cut into that. I don't really have anything to cut, so I'm just gonna cut that tiny little bit that I have. Again, keeping with my angle, so important. I cannot lose that angle, okay? Last part of my section, I'm gonna go ahead and comb over as well. I'm gonna incorporate my fine teeth again because I want it to be nice and tight. Only pick up what you can control at one time. Don't make things harder on yourselves. I'm gonna pull this over. I really don't have anything to cut, maybe just a teeny tiny bit. Because see all that hair's falling back? You want that to happen, that's her perimeter, okay? So then when I release this hair, she's got a nice, very conservative face frame going on, okay? Starting from here down. And that's what you want. The more conservative when you're learning, the better, because it's easier to fix your mistakes. So super important, I'm over directing that hair. I'm staying parallel or as close to mimicking that angle that I initially have in my triangle. So I'm gonna cut the left side as well. Well, my left side, her right side, so that you can see it one more time. I'm gonna go ahead and clip this out of the way, just for the sake of the video, so that we're nice and neat. Now, here I have my other triangle, other part of my triangle, okay? Now, I wanna make sure that I take some of that guide down, because remember, I put that guide away, so I'm gonna pull some of that down. I need it, okay? And here it is. It's right there in my, you can see it right there, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and wet this down a little bit. And again, we're just creating the triangle. And the purpose of creating the triangle first is to kind of buffer if you make a mistake in the triangle, we can fix that. And not just going straight into your face frame and making a mistake, okay? So I'm going to, again, using my fine teeth, I'm gonna grab all my hair, just like I did on my other side, And very important, I want to mimic that part line right here. Okay, so I'm going to come over to the opposite side, all the way over, and there's my guide. And I want to make sure that I'm nice and steep, just like this line here, and then I'm going to cut all the way over to my cheekbone. Okay, release that. Again, I have a nice steep angle there. Okay, I want that. That's exactly what I need. Okay, so now I'm going to pull down my next subsection, and I want to do, again, the best I can do to stay parallel or mimic that line, that angle. Okay, because I don't want to take this over and cut it horizontal. I want it to be very angled. Okay, so I'm going to come from here, nice angled line. Let me take a little bit more there. You can clip this away if you need to, just like the other side. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and incorporate all this hair together. Again, if you need to split this in half, please split it in half. You don't have to carry everything at one time. I don't want you to feel like, you know, it's too overwhelming for you, all of those things. But you want to make sure you disperse this hair. Notice I'm using my fine teeth now. I'm going to pick this hair up, bring it all of it over to the opposite side. Make sure that I'm mimicking the angle that I created earlier, which I am. And I'm going to cut to my guide. Not cutting past my second knuckle. I'll reposition my fingers and finish it out. Okay. Again, you can split this right here into two if you need to. I'm going to go ahead and pull it down. And I'll use this clip since I took this section down earlier to show you the back pulled up to the front. Let me wet that down one more time. I know it seems like you're like, oh, you wet your mannequin down so much. Yes, because I don't want it to get dry as I'm cutting. I don't want her hair to get dry. And I'm not like sopping, she's not sopping wet. She's still not dripping, but it's very controlled hair, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and split this into two, just like I did it on the other side. And I'm going to take all of this hair together, comb it all together with my fine teeth, nice and controlled. I'm gonna bring it over to the opposite side. And again, there's not a whole lot to cut here, just down here at the bottom is what I'm seeing, okay? So I'm gonna split that in half, and I'll continue that down, that section. There's my guide, nice and angled on the opposite side. Again, you wanna make sure, I'm gonna take this last section down here. You wanna make sure that you're nice and angled so that you're not cutting her horizontal, because once you start cutting that line horizontally, there's very little to cut. Once you start going in there, like for an example, if I took this over, let's say I was doing my triangle, took my triangle over to the opposite side and I go to cut it, but I'm straight across, I'm not gonna have that beautiful angle to start with. I have to be angled when I come over here. So over-directed, angled, fine teeth with my comb, making sure that you're running as close to mimicking or being parallel to this line as possible, okay? So how do we check this? All right, great, she's set. I'm gonna go ahead and repart her down the middle, just like so. And now I'm gonna do what I like to tell my students, bear claws is what we do. So what we do is we take the hair and we bear claw forward. So like a bear has its claws out, we're bear clawing forward, and we're checking for balance is what we're checking for. We start in the middle. We're checking our balance right now is what we're checking, okay? So this is something you can do if you finish and your teacher is still checking other people. You can do your bear claws and check those out. Another thing we do is we just kind of visually look at her. We may step away and look at her angle, look at her pieces. You know, I may say, oh, you know, here's my guide. You can see it right there in the middle. And you may say, oh, she might have gotten a little bit horizontal. Like, I'm shorter on this side. Let's pretend I'm shorter on this side. Oh, what happened? If I go back and look at it, she might be more horizontal on this side than she is on this side, and that will actually make her look shorter on one side than the other. Typically, if you're right-handed, your left side is going to be your weaker side. So a lot of my students will start cutting their right side and they're great, they're good to go, and then they get to the left side and it's horizontal. And they're like, what happened? And it's just a matter of making sure that angle is nice and steep. So that is a very, very basic face frame technique. Another thing we do to kind of look at our work is we blow dry her with a round brush, and then your teacher will have you check each other's work, all of those things, just to make sure that you get that technique down.